What's going on, everyone? Biotubers alike, welcome to an early morning edition of BioTalk Live. Today I'm joined by Tucker, Tom, and Guinness Walker. Today we're going to be talking about Bionicle music, specifically the score, and some of the fans' covers and recreations of a lot of this music. Goes a long way. Yeah, I know we're starting early this morning. Reason being is I have a job later today that I have to get to, but also I just figured why not allow some more of our international audience, our European audience, in. Tarkur is from Sweden. Tom Rule is also in Europe, so it's like just made a lot of sense to maybe do an early bird stream. So I'm excited to have some people here that are not usually left out because we usually do these out in the afternoon. So I guess if everyone wants to introduce themselves, say hello before we get started.
Wow, you guys start. They know me.
Okay.
Was that me or?
Yeah, you can go, Tom. You can go, Tom. Then Tucker. You can also.
All right, sure. Yeah, well, I'm Tom. Zach introduced me already, so yeah, I am a bit of a general guy, really. I do some art, I do some music, I do some mocks, and it's just kind of whatever I get inspired to do, really.
Awesome. Taku.
My name is Sarker. I've been around since 2014, just browsing the community a bit. Recently, I started a project based around the Bionicle trading card game from 2001, which currently is in hiatus. But beyond that, I haven't done much in terms of fan projects or so. But I do a bit of mocking every once in a while on Stod.io, and yeah, just being all over the place.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's great to have you guys here. 11 concurrent viewers. So if you're tuning in, we're going to be talking about the music of Bionicle, specifically a lot of Nathan Furst scores. Now, some of them I can't pull up because I'm pretty sure I could get copy striked for that because, what is it, Warner Music or Universal Music? One of them owns the rights. Which is
honestly, I haven't had any issues. Like I've played some of the Bionicle music before, and
I'm
I
sure.
haven't been stricken yet. But it's for the safe side, maybe better
in a live stream. But yeah, I'll play some of the covers. I'll play some of the music that Tom's made. In general, maybe Guinness. I know you have a couple of songs that I could maybe play as well. But yeah, good to see you guys here. We got Umarok, Space Skillet, Cassiano Urbano, Crescenia, or Chronesia, Atagwinic,
I believe it's Chronesia.
Bioscrowl. Tom Rule is also in the live chat. Toakiro. All right, some new faces that don't necessarily always get to tune in because we usually do these later in the day. So it's good to have you all here. Let's just start with generally off the top. I'd say, for me in film, movies, music is almost a total other character to them. You have films like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars where you could just listen to the soundtrack and it's as if you're watching the film. Every leitmotif, every beat, every single thing that matters and counts, every character's theme brings the images to your head when you just listen to the music alone. And that's the one thing out of all things I'd say that the Bionicle trilogy that they did with Creative Capers did the best at was just that score specifically being so ingrained in those films and just those character themes, those character moments playing, in my opinion, just a huge part in like my childhood, but also in really bringing to life the universe in those films for sure. I don't know, what do you say, Guinness?
Couple of interesting things because first of all, if you're not already, go follow Nathan Furst on Instagram. There's a chance you might even get into. He's done a few private talks, like Zoom calls.
Yes.
You can chat with him. He might do another one in the future, so go do that now if you haven't already. A couple interesting things about the soundtrack I learned from him. All of that music completely synthesized. In other words, there was no live orchestra.
Yeah.
So it's a really good, especially for the time. You have to think like the earliest ones, 2003. That is a time where to make a fully synthesized soundtrack would have required several computers. just to simulate
Yeah.
the software that you would need to do that. Like,
Here's
it
his
was insane.
Here's his Instagram. You guys can go ahead and follow him.
Do it.
But basically, there's a lot on there. It's kind of wild.
Oh yeah.
He loves movies too. Like he just, you can tell. Like yeah, he's if anything kind of an innovator because that just was kind of unheard of. You know, I would have expected, and even I think my parents to have listened and seen that movie. You know, when it came out 2003, that like there had to have been some sort of like you know a crew of musicians along with him, but literally it was almost just all
One
him,
guy.
which is wild
It,
to think about.
to my understanding, it was entirely him. There's like you have to leave room for okay, maybe there was like a person here did something there, but from the when I spoke to him, the impression I got was it was literally all him. He also wrote most of the music before they actually filmed the movie.
Right.
So like he was given basic ideas, and then he wrote out the soundtrack, and then they used that as they animated, right?
Right.
That's
No.
such a good way to do it because that means
Yeah.
you can put all your like structure and feeling into the way you write the music, and you don't have because it so happens so often where they make the film and then somebody gets commissioned to do the soundtrack and then they cut it up and all the like intentions the composer had behind music gets just lost. Like Transformers is a good example because there's like there's one theme for Bumblebee, but then it also gets played various other places where Bumblebee is nowhere to be seen and it's just a sad moment,
Right.
stuff like that. So it's like yeah, oh, because that's great because that really solidified all the like leitmotifs and stuff that he put in for the different characters and things as well.
No, that's a term that
100%.
keeps coming back up. Yeah. Go ahead. Zach.
I like that you bring up Steve Jablonsky because, like, I'd say actually his score in the first Transformers movies or two were the one things I really liked about those films. You know, I was also younger; I didn't realize how awful they got. But I remember like looking at that composer specifically as like someone to kind of look towards because he did a lot of similar things with that Transformers score because he did a lot of video game score actually. And it was like one man band sort of stuff. So they were like, we can save a lot of money bringing this guy. And I think as he went further along, he brought like full on, you know, orchestras with him. But generally speaking, that's like a common practice in the industry is what Nathan Furst started, which is generally Hans Zimmer as well will sometimes literally
Yeah,
just sit
that's
there
what I
and
was
do
gonna
it all
mention.
himself in like a recording studio and then bring in the orchestra obviously when they're doing final recordings for like the film. But definitely interesting to actually bring up that point, Guinness, that like this was like so early on. It was kind of at the time still very not normal. You know, it was like an unorthodox way to compose
Especially
a film.
the electronic nature of it.
Right.
So, you know, let's rewind from 2003 just 20 years, and the way you were making most soundtrack was still almost entirely organic. But you come up on 20 years later, and it was advanced enough that you could do stuff like that, make an entire soundtrack for a movie completely using computers. But it was still early and you know in its early stages enough that it required like several computers and a insane amount of man hours. Like I think about Tom, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like the way when you use a modern digital audio workstation on a computer to make music, they have just constantly improved it over the years. I mean, it's very easy to get into making music these days compared to just 20 years ago. So the amount of effort it would take to say make a soundtrack of that quality now is way less than it would take to make that same quality soundtrack that he made in 2003, 4, and 5.
Right.
So again, one man band doing all of that work, several computers, all you know, and I believe he was 20. What did he say he was? He was very young. I think he said he was like 23
Yeah,
when
that's
when he did the soundtrack.
wild. That's crazy. I don't
Yeah.
even know if was it you listened to one of these live chats. Was it like or like Zoom calls? Was he like found out or sought out with the through Creative Capers? Did they like know him through a friend or something or
I can't remember. I know that he was basically an unknown, and that Bionicle was the thing that got him in. I think he knew the Shakespeares, if I remember correctly, and
right?
that they were like, they asked him to do you know something. I can't remember specifically though. But yeah, I
Yeah.
know like Bionicle was the thing that got him big. Go ahead, Tom.
Now, that point about how much easier it's got with digital audio workstations and stuff as well. Like when I first started with like making music, it was at school in my lunch break with like I was what 15 maybe when I first started it, and it was just like on 'cause the school only had like one set of Apple Macs, and they were all in the music room, and I would sneak in there at lunchtime and go use them and
That's great.
do the stuff I did.
That
So
that's amazing. That must have been at the same time because like you were one of those like fellow
Yeah,
biotubers
around
that I was talking to often, Tom, because I wanted to do my like stop motions and my Glatorian stuff, and I wanted like covers of like the Transformers soundtrack and stuff, and you would send them to me. And so I'm assuming what you're saying is like some of the circumstances you had where you were sneaking off during school and like using their computers, like working on the music. That's insane. That's
it was
amazing.
those tracks.
I liked it. Like I know like you probably as a musician are like, oh, it's obviously not my best work. You know, it's like 10, 15 years ago. But at the same time, like I really appreciated the work you were doing for me. And like I remember just listening to the music you'd send me, you know, outside of just putting it in videos, just, you know, independently, just like listening to them all the time because I thought they were great. There was like
Right.
you did one that was like a remix of the Scorponok theme, and it's crazy because it like matches with New Divide, and so I remember I don't know if it was you or I, but I like put them on top of each other and it like worked, and we were like, whoa, this sounds cool. That was like
I don't
so.
remember
I'm
that.
sure you. Yeah, I remember a lot of things. My friends always go like, "How the hell do you remember some of this stuff?" But I just remember that being a big thing. Is like going to you for music and scores and covers and like sure it's just usually like a keyboard style like sound for like the Mask of Light theme and all that, but I remember I used a couple of your old tracks when I first started up YouTube again, like 3 months ago, and you were like, "Oh man, Zach, I have like much more recent work than that. Please, like, go check out my SoundCloud." But yeah, um, Tarkor, do you want to kind of talk about like your relationship with Nathan Furst's music in the Bionicle films and all that?
Yeah, sure. So my first exposure to Nathan First and the Bionicle movies was on a ripped copy of Mask of Light. So a little bit of an illegal activity there, but yeah. And one thing I really admire about Nathan First music is that it brings so much character to the world and everything. It's like it's memorable. Not to me, it's not memorable because of the tunes, but of like the emotions rather that they embark.
Right.
In
People
a sense,
underestimate the importance of that. Yeah.
and considering technological limitations Nathan First was faced with at the time, I think his work should really be admired as a phenomenon in that sense because he managed to do something great with something
I
that
agree.
was a subpar
I
in that
agree.
sense.
Totally.
Yeah, you know what? He what he did, I think the point that you're getting on there that's really, really great is that he didn't really need to, and yet he did. There's no, I don't think anybody would have been surprised if Bionicle had just been given some like, okay, make it's a freaking island robots. Give us island robot music. Okay, here's some
Yeah.
island robot music. But he didn't. He cared about it and enough to actually make the
Right.
music, you know,
He
be a
gave
part
it
of the
some
story.
soul. Like he literally gave it
Yes.
like a soul, pretty much. Like which is how I started this stream saying it's like super important to me. Like I think music, composition, score in a film is literally like a whole nother character as well. You have to
Absolutely.
treat it as one of like the co-leads of the film. You know, that's how you have to do it. Like with the Lord of the Rings and Star Wars films, that's how they treat the music. You know, you have John Williams, Howard Shore, these guys that are just like legends in the industry. They make that literally such a crucial part.
Well, yeah, like try picturing your favorite movie without that fucking amazing. Try
Yeah.
picturing the Star Wars scenes without the fucking.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Picture Mustafar without the music.
Yeah, or
Something
Yeah.
way
Dagobah.
different.
Yeah.
Good fucking luck, you know. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
So who else we
You know,
got in
and
the
even-
chat?
yeah.
We got William Rydell. Awesome. Thanks to see you. He says, "Well, hello there. I found you by your Toa Matanui review." Great, awesome. That review is so cringe at the beginning. Oh my god, but that's great. Thank you, Toakiro, Cassiano Urbano, Paraka Ava, good to see you. You're always here. He's like number one. Let's see. Yeah, Bioscrowl, Carlos Maxwell. Let's see. What are people writing in about? Ada Guneng says Lekon and Pterodax themes are my favorites. Yeah, I
Lekon's theme is actually Nathan's favorite too.
yeah, I love how that
you can
opens
tell.
up.
Mine too. Even
You
though
can
it
tell,
was
and
an unused title theme, it's probably the most accurate, like,
Right.
summarization of Lekon.
I love how it opens up the film too.
The part in the soundtrack which always gets me is like it actually makes me almost cry each time. Like when Lekon dies, and then you get that little pause in the music, and then it goes up high, and you get everything come back in, and Vakama starts crying.
Yeah.
And that bit always hits me, and it's like that is the real like.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
That goes to show that's where you really see like how Nathan made the music first, and then they filmed it or like animated it to fit that perfectly. And it's like, oh, it's so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Crinicia says, has anyone heard of the song Ride? I believe it's used for Bionicle. Yeah, it was at the end of Legend Reborn. I actually talked about it in my top 10 Bionicle band songs. I had it at number 10 because it wasn't like my personal favorite, and it was actually like pre-recorded. It wasn't even made for Bionicle. But yes, I have heard of that. But specifically today we are talking about the Bionicle scores and compositions. Bioscrowl 97 says Jablonski's score for Transformers brought out more life in those movies than needed to be. Yeah, 100%. Carlos Maxwell says, bruh, WTF, you're telling me that Nathan Furst managed to make a whole synth orchestra sound almost as good as the real thing? That's legendary.
Yep.
100%. Yep. Yeah. Cassiano Urbano, in a Bionicle futuristic setting like New Atero, but a millennia later after the events of 2010, would need a fusion of Ratchet Deadlocked soundtrack and sci-fi tribal vibes. Totally. Transformers Prime, people were talking about yeah, the Bionicle Studio. That's you, Guinness, right? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
New Divide was so good. Space Skillet. Carlos Maxwell, if Nathan Furst was unknown and 23 years old at the time, then I'd guess they'd probably hired him thinking it would be easier to pay a no-name with less money and young who wasn't already established. I agree, which is just a wild guess. Carlos Maxwell continues, which is just a wild guess because on my part, but if it's true, then it only makes it even more impressive that he made the soundtrack he did. Yeah, totally. I 100% agree. Bioscrowl also says, speaking of Lord of the Rings, recently rewatched all 3 films. Awesome, dude. Man, the score for that trilogy is god tier. It literally is. Maybe one of the best things ever composed. There isn't a moment in those movies that doesn't have music. The only time you don't hear music is when he puts on the ring. But even then, there's still that kind of like eerie sort of sound when he's in the other world. Like, that. But it's not as much music.
What is music? And I think that's an interesting question because that entire film, all 3 films, they're covered in ambient or full-on tracks. So even if there's not a full track playing, there's something like a soundscape. There's constantly audio feedback that's like making you feel in the fucking moment.
Yeah. Space Skillet says, I was 6 years old when the Mask of Light movie came out, and the music still resonates with me so much. Dude, totally. I was 9, I think 8 or 9 when it came out. But I can imagine even the younger you were, the more it stuck with you, 100%. Does Lekon's death remind anyone else's of Darth Vader's? Kind of, almost. It's almost a little more Yoda, though, in a way.
Yeah,
but I guess
more Yoda.
Yoda doesn't really sacrifice himself, whereas like Lekon, comes in between him and Makuta. So I could see the parallels there for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Lekon was never a bad guy.
It would be more like if Duma had did
redemption
it.
that Darth Vader had.
Yeah, imagine if Duma had stepped in.
Darth Vader's sacrifices is redemption. Lekon had nothing to redeem.
So I guess now is a good transition. Tom, would you mind if I pulled up a couple of your SoundCloud songs and we listened to them for a second or so, and then I turned it down and we can just talk about some of how you do some of this stuff?
Yeah. So I think one of the good. So I actually have a playlist with like the Bionicle tracks that are worth listening to.
Yeah, I'm on
and-
your SoundCloud popular tracks. I see like, Bionicle theme medley, of course, the Riding the Currents remix that you made, which is cool.
Yeah, let me just I sent you a link in the
Yeah,
other thing
yeah,
with
totally.
and
I'll let
that's
you.
got like my main uh it's basically all the same, but it's just filtered out the stuff that's
Yeah.
not relevant to
If
Bionicle, really.
if you guys haven't yet and you don't or do have a SoundCloud, go to SoundCloud, search Tom Rule, or and you can find Toa Tom on there and all of his music, and it's pretty great. I'm pretty sure some of them you can even download. Some of them you can at least save on a playlist. There's a bunch of things you can do.
Yeah, so this playlist is free to download for anybody. I just chucked the link in the YouTube chat as well, just for anyone interested as well. But yeah, they're like quite a long period of time in which I've put these together because they're all kind of I make one track every like 6 months or something. It's literally just a very small hobby when as and when I get the inspiration for it, but it's like slowly
Yeah.
building up into something substantial.
Do you wanna send it to me over Discord, or are you putting it on?
I did. If it's in the voice text channel.
Oh, here we go. All right. Let me pull it up. Sweet. Oh, wow. I love the artwork, too. Free to use
Thanks.
Bionicle covers. Oh, sweet. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I'll put this in the description of the video as well. So anyone watching, here you go. You can go to the description of the video, find Toa Tom on SoundCloud. There we go. Boom. Saved. Sweet. Do it. Go to SoundCloud and do it. But let's go ahead and start. I'm going to play. I feel like it gets a good range of what you've been able to accomplish, which is the Bionicle theme medley. It'll get to a point where I'll turn it down, though, and kind of like, as I'm going through it, you can kind of like talk and explain however much you're comfortable with, Tom.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see, though. So this is, guys, from Tom Rule's SoundCloud Bionicle theme medley. I believe it starts with, like, piano, builds into, like, a handful of the themes that you weave in and out. It's pretty great. This is so good. This is so good.
Tom, do you mind if I ask? So, I'm assuming you played this on an actual piano, yeah? Oh, where'd he go?
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure. It sounds amazing.
He vanished. There he is.
Sorry. I meant to mute button and I pressed disconnect instead.
I was wondering. Yeah,
So,
you played this on
Tom,
real
yeah.
piano, right?
This is all on piano, right?
It was. So this was actually I was home alone at my parents' house, and they have an actual piano, which I am
I was
very envious
thinking.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is that the room recorded, or is that?
That is. So I'm pretty sure I literally just sat my phone on the sofa
Wow.
on the other side of the room. And used SoundCloud's like recording feature on there. So
No
like,
way. Wow.
You
That's
can tell 'cause
incredible.
The piano sounds old. It's got that like some of the strings are slightly out of tune because it's been sitting. It's got that really organic, awesome like piano sound. It's great, and I love the way that you met like a minor. You kind of turn expectations to bring it into the next melody. Great stuff.
Yeah. It was kind of basically because I sort of started out because I wanted quite often do is I'll sit down on my keyboard and I'll just like play stuff, and I'll just like play whatever comes into my head at the time. And I was doing it that day, and I was like, actually, I can remember like 6 or 7 different Bionicle themes. Maybe I can string these together. So it just kind of like came together like that, and yeah, I kind of. I don't know if you probably noticed, but towards the end, I sort of started to run out of ideas. There's a little bit more hesitation between, a tiny bit more hesitation.
I don't
between each
notice it.
little
It's
theme
great.
and then I attempted to play the Bionicle Heroes DS game theme at the end, which doesn't really work on piano. So yeah, which was an interesting note to end it on. But yeah, that's gosh, how old is that?
7 years, it says. This is the best part right here. Wow, it's so good.
Oh yeah, I love the Matoran theme. It's like such a weird, like, it's like a nice change in tone from the usual minor key that Bionicle score has, and then you get you kind of like get this like, oh, the sun comes out and then everything's all nice and shiny.
What would you say is your favorite? I think the Rahaga theme or the Friendship theme.
Rahaga is pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like we're using that for the MNR like kind of thing. That's become our sound. So.
Yeah, and you have Bionicle Heroes here, or the Bionicle video game. You like mixed in heroes too.
Yeah, I kind of merged them all in a bit because yeah, I really like the Bionicle games, and it was kind of just something I wanted to like include on the same level as the rest of the score, because they stick in my head just as much. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and listen to the next one now. This one's definitely different, whereas this is like a medley, you know, it's like you, the piano, you know, this kind of like, it's like an older piano, so it kind of has that cool sound to it. It gives it like really an amazing atmosphere. But you have, I believe it's right here. So yeah, it's the Bionicle Riding the Currents. This is like, how would you describe this before I play it for everyone? It's kind of like a techno Bionicle remix of the theme, kind of.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, so it's actually, there is a section in Bionicle 2. So I've been sort of, ever since Nathan first released the Bionicle 2 soundtrack on Spotify, I've been like listening to all of it on loop, and sort of, it kind of became clear after a while that actually there are little bits missing.
Yeah.
And so this section of music comes from one of the missing parts of the soundtrack, which was in the scene where they've just done the scene where they escape the Vaki in the Colosseum, and they run out, they jump off the platform, and then Matau belly flops, and then they're going through the tubes, and the shoot, that scene where they're just, before anything bad happens, where they're going through the chutes, and it's like all kind of legendary, and they're determined, and they're on course, and that music that plays there isn't in the released soundtrack, and it has like a weird variation on the main theme. So I wanted to play with that, really.
Well, let's go ahead and give it a listen, and after a minute or two, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, this little section actually.
It's so good.
It's actually weirdly inspired by actually some soundtrack from Hyrule Warriors, the Nintendo Wii game. I think it's on the Wii.
It actually reminded me of Halo.
Yeah. It's so the track from Hyrule Warriors is called Silent Guardians, I think, and it's
Right.
like it does that similar kind of
Right,
breakdown
yeah.
where you get the main sort of tune, kind of the low mellow kind of tune ends, and then you get this high synth and choir coming in, and I was like, I have to kind of use that.
I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
amazing, and it's like when you listen to this and you compare it to the Bionicle medley that you did, it's like the range you have right here. I mean, is it safe to say you're the next Nathan Furst? Is that what we could say? I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, well, because it's weird, because like electronic music is something I got into like just towards the end of school, really, and like before then I'd been basically solely just piano music. I
Right.
piano lessons as a kid and stuff like that. So I used to just make piano music, and then I got like this. What I actually used to make this track is a bit of software on the Nintendo 3DS. Because I tried various.
Who would have thought?
Because I tried like various like digital audio workstations on the computer, and I never really like connected with any of them. Especially since I never spent money on them. So it's just the free demos of various things. Like I tried Fruity Loops, I tried LMMS.
Oh, I remember Fruity Loops.
That's going back.
Yeah, like YouTuber musicians would talk about it, like rappers and all this stuff, like to make beats and everything.
Yeah. And then I ended up settling on this one, it's really weird because it kind of it's actually quite nice using a touch screen to compose.
Yeah.
Because
it would be.
You can drag and drop the loops around. You can draw your notes on, and it just kind of works.
Well, you can also play it. Like what's that instrument where you can? It's got a piano, and it's got a stylus, and you have to play it like a stylus across the keys to get the sound to work. So it's very organic already. So it's just naturally really good for that, I think.
Yeah, it's actually you can't do that on that one piece of software, but I have multiple actually. I've actually got like 5 or 6 different music apps on my 3DS now, which I just use for different tracks. So it's kind of and one of them does have that, so it's quite fun to play around with it, really.
That's really interesting. That's like a legacy, a very like niche sort of but interesting way to make music. Like you're gonna run into an issue. I hope do you have any like I don't know if the 3DS will lose support for any of those, because those have got to be like those apps can't be supported anymore.
Right.
But
well,
that's like
the thing is, I don't think they ever get supported or updated ever. Anyway, they just kind of like sitting. I've downloaded them. They're sitting around in my hardware, and when 3DS dies, they're gone. So
it's almost like
yeah.
you know, when you see those people, have you guys ever seen those videos where somebody does MS Paint and they're like a master at MS Paint? Most people use MS Paint can't do crap, and most people are going to get this program to say, oh cool, make a little song. And then there's people like you come along like, I'm going to take this, and it's actually kind of like what I'm doing with Studio.
For everyone watching, here's his SoundCloud. No, I'm just showing them the SoundCloud.
Go check out Tom's.
Yeah, right here. This is literally like all the songs he's produced and been able to make, and it's pretty incredible.
It's crazy, dude. Is this all with 3DS?
Some of them. So anything that doesn't sound like a piano recording,
right?
Pretty much they were all 3DS. Apart from Molten Caves, that one was done using LMMS, I think, and that's the really one piece I've ever finished with that software. I didn't get on with it very well. But yeah, it's kind of the reason I use the 3DS one is because I can carry it around with me. So like if most of the time when I actually get inspiration to make music and I'm stuck on the train or I'm just like it's quite rare that I will get that sort of inspiration when I'm sitting at my computer. So I'll just it's nice to have in your pocket, really.
It's really cool. that's such a. I would like continue to exploit that for as long as possible.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
That's
yeah.
like you're pushing something, that was probably made for. Have a laugh, make a song, and then stop using it. But you're taking that and pushing it to. I'm gonna make the most out of this program, like basically, like completely exploit it to make the coolest music that's possible, and it becomes this super unique sound that you almost can't find anywhere else. So that's really cool, dude.
Thanks. Yeah, it's quite fun. I think it's definitely been a savior of camping holidays quite a lot of the time.
Sweet, is there one more song you'd like us to pop on at all? End of any of these?
I think Frozen Fields is probably an interesting one because that one is actually it's an original composition, so I came up with it all myself. But it's done. It's prompted by a friend of mine. I think they were. I feel really bad because it was actually part of a fan album for sort of like paying homage to the first kind of couple of years of Bionicle, like Matanui Online game and that kind of stuff. So,
Oh, sweet.
So the Frozen Fields one was kind of done in the feel of old, like pre-film, pre-movie
Right.
Bionicle soundtrack.
Sweet. Well, let's take a look. Let's
yeah.
take a look. All right, right here we go.
It's a bit of a slow build, this one.
Much like if you were on the island.
I love a good slow build.
There we go. You get the drums kicking in.
So this song feels like what you would hear in the perspective of the Tora in a video game while exiting their canisters. Yeah, like maybe Kopaka, like he's just landed in the icy wastes and he's getting out, and this is like
right.
Yeah, that does kind of capture the sort of feel I was going for. So.
Right, and I mean, it sounds like almost those videos they had surveying the island, like back when they were first putting out content, like this kind of a mix of with the tribal mixed with like electronic music. I mean, yeah, that's fascinating.
You know what it would have fit perfectly in? Remember that old Bionicle game that we talked about before, the one they advertised a whole bunch that was going to be the PC Bionicle story, the mask of, getting the masks, that they ended up releasing on Biomedia Project as like a rebuild. I feel like it would fit perfectly in that game. Like, just, wow. I would love to fucking hear your music in that game. That would be so cool.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you said that, because video game music really is like a major inspiration for my stuff.
Right.
It's like, it's always video game music that gets my inspiration going, so yeah. It's,
a lot of this stuff would be right at home as like an OST to a game, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. Yeah, it definitely gives like the Matanui Online game vibes as well. Very similar. Oh, that's awesome. So
Thanks.
There's 12 tracks on here in total, everybody. So definitely check them out on SoundCloud. I mean, it's all really great. Let's see. As far as music goes, anything else you guys want to add? Because I think in a moment here, I'm going to have Guinness talk about his new series on Stud.io and like making Bionicle figures through that up next. So anything else you kind of want to say before we get into that?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm sure that topic could go on forever, so cut it here for now, I guess.
No worries. So for the next 10, 15 minutes or so, let's go ahead and check out your new series. If you want to just go ahead and talk about it, I could pull into frame just like your most recent video, but yeah.
You can do that for starters. I got some stuff I could show real quick after. So
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know me, my name is Guinness Walker. I do a series called the Bionicle Studio. Now, if you if you've already watched my old series, I did an old series that I called Bionicle Studio that I'm rebranding as Bionicle Studio Reviews, where I looked at like the actual sets and I did rebuilds. This new series is different. What I'm going to be doing with this one is basically teaching people how to do some crazy stuff with Studio. Like in the first episode, I go over how to make multicolored masks, so you can have like 2-toned or 3-toned masks that for your renders in Studio.
I
And I'm gonna go over a whole bunch.
No, we're not. That was
I can
clickbait, but we
hear
are baking.
there's sound
FM
coming
up.
from someone else's
I will.
audio real quick. What is that? What's going on? There's like, it sounds like Tributron. What? I must have another window open or something. What the heck? Yeah, right now I'm the only one coming through on the stream. Whoa, that's so weird. Every time I close YouTube, it stops. But then if I try to open Bionicle Studio, your stuff, it like plays. That's so weird. Let me try and go to it again and see if it does the same thing. I think we're good. Okay, I can't hear it anymore. All right, awesome. All right. So let me show this window really quick. And yeah, you can keep talking, Guinness, wherever you just were a second ago.
Yeah, so basically, Bionicle Studio is about, using the program Studio or Stud.io. If you're not familiar with it, it's a digital program that lets you build Bionicles in, a virtual environment. And then you can do high-quality renders of them, which basically makes them look hyper-realistic, as if they were real sets. And you can have, obviously, being a computer program, unlimited pieces. You can have whatever color. So you can put pieces in colors that wouldn't be available in actual, Bionicle parts, whatever. But more so, and what my series is focusing on, is really exploiting that program. Like I said, Tom, it's kind of similar to what you did with your 3DS program. Taking Studio and pushing it as far as it goes, and also moving from Studio into programs like Blender. So learning how to animate a Bionicle and how to rig a Bionicle, how to make large-scale scenes and full-on animation scenes that you can make in Studio and port over into Blender, how to animate using Studio itself. How to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So, yeah, Zach, you can pull out the video if you want, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I got a few things I could show.
Yeah, let me do this.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of a.
Right here. I'll pull it right up.
Play like the first couple minutes.
Yeah, I'll play the intro too because I really like it. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yeah, here we go. So this is part of Guinness's new series, the Bionicle Studio. And I love your intro, by the way. You're putting to use some of your talents just right there.
Thank you.
The Bionicle Studio.
That's right. That's what changed.
That's cool to see.
So all of this was done in Blender, but all the models were first made in Studio. Welcome. My name is Guinness Walker.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm going to take you on a journey.
Love that.
Dude, this is epic. This needs more views. Go subscribe.
Bionicle had a profound impact on me growing up.
So yeah.
basically, I'm going to show you all the steps required to do everything that you see in that intro and then some. That's kind of the point of the show is to. I started just less than a year ago now with never having touched any 3D modeling programs, never having really. I had minor editing knowledge that I taught myself, and I got to this point just through experimentation. And I want to take people because I know there's been an explosion with interest in studio and people doing this kinds of stuff, and I guarantee you there are lots of people out there who are big Bionicle fans or Lego fans. That studio can serve as a jumping off point for them getting into animation, for them getting into 3D modeling.
Yeah,
It's just
Dude 21
really
says, "What's his channel? Search Guinness Walker or the Bionicle
Actually,
Studio."
search the Bionicle Studio.
Yeah, now
Bionicle
it's just
Studio.
the Bionicle Studio.
I do other stuff, but that's other. I'm splitting it up now because I figured the Bionicle stuff is
Right.
separate, so. But yeah, it's a tutorial series. It's an animation showcase. So, and it's also a mock showcase. So at basically in every episode, there's going to be a cool little animation. There'll be a little tutorial showing whatever we're focusing on in that episode, and then there'll be a showcase of some mocks. For this episode, it was just mine because it was all done internally.
Right.
But for future episodes, people who submit mocks, if you want to join our Discord on the video, there's a video link in the video, and we're going to be doing showcasing other people's mocks too that are relevant to the topic we're going over. If you guys have ever watched, I don't know how many people here have ever heard of an old obscure show called Art Attack, but it's heavily inspired by Art Attack actually.
I used to love Art Attack.
That's right, Neil. That's my boy.
My younger sister used to watch it.
It's one of those. I think it's a British show, but it was aired on Disney, and it would play late night in Canada, and so I used to watch it all the time. And it's basically how do you take this really cool thing and then just step by step kind of show you how you might be able to do it yourself with a little bit of a flair here and there too. So yeah, so those there you see there's all the colored custom masks. So that's something that I did in studio, and you can do that yourself, and I show the whole process in the video. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, check it out.
I like this little setup that you made too. You have Mnog playing in the upper right hand corner.
So that's all a Blender model.
Yeah.
And then the rest is done in editing, right? But so it's hard to tell. It's a very minor thing, but if you see on the right side of the video, there's that orange, and that's actually a fire of the sun. Because in the intro video, when it zooms into that little building,
right,
that model is literally on that sun, on that giant structure that's in the sky, and so the outside there is the actual surface of the sun just floating by the lava. I'm going to be showing off more and more cool stuff as the series goes on, but I'm also looking to. I want to get people into this stuff because I know it was.
I like this.
For me.
I like these glasses, man. You look good.
Yeah,
you look like you're out of the Matrix.
When I was in high school, I had Lennon hair. I looked like freaking John Lennon.
I've been able to look like Lennon too when I had really long hair and I put on those glasses.
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
Sweet. Well, guys, check out Guinness Walker's channel, which is now called The Bionicle Studios. He's at 350 subscribers. Let's try and get him to 500. We need to get people to do this. Anyone is interested in modeling or using Stud.io. He goes into it in depth, and eventually I think this series is gonna kick off for people that want to know more about how to use it. Definitely. I know Toa Jaeger said he really appreciated it and has been taking in some of the stuff that you're teaching in that series to use.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it makes people realize they might be able to do the same thing, because again, my original profession, I started like Tom. I'm a musician by trade originally. So I kind of just came into all of this pretty blank slate, and it's totally something you can do too if you want to.
Right. Awesome. Well, guys, we've been going for a little under an hour, but that's cool with me. We got to start this stream earlier than usual. The whole point being is I wanted to get Tom on, Tarkor, other people that are more of our international and not, United States-based BioTube community, so that way you guys can kind of hey, change of pace. But thanks, Guinness, for also taking time out of your day. I know you're up in Canada, not too far off from my time zone, so thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Tom, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Tarkor too, if you're still here too, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
I know this is one of the first time you've done this, but it was neat having all you guys on.
It was great.
So yeah, literally, guys, go to SoundCloud and search for Tom Rule. Find all of his stuff. Toa Tom here, and then also the Bionicle Studio, the new series that Guinness Walker is starting, which I think is just like really well produced, really well done. Definitely worth watching. But yeah, sweet. Everyone that was here, Tokira, William Chen, Lego David, Odd21, Bionicle Oculus Studio, Tesla Effect, Crinicia, Biosground 97, Space Skillet, Umarok, everyone that typed in, Cassiano Urbano, William Rydell, Ada Junik. It's great seeing you guys all here. Thanks for tuning in. Paraka Avok as well, of course. We'll tune in next week. I think we'll do one kind of later in the afternoon, most likely. I haven't yet decided on what the topic will be, but we always end up kind of discussing it in the Discord and coming up with one, the day before, and it always works out because this topic, is endless. There's just so much we can talk about when it comes to Bionicle. So, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time here on BioTalk.